In 3 minutes, we're going to speed run through 13.8 billion years of the universe. We are going to start from the Big Bang, work our way up until today. And if that doesn't sound like enough time for all that, then good news, because it isn't. This is going to be a rough ride. All right, let's go. So 13.8 billion years ago, everything was in one place. We don't really know what it was like or what even existed back then. All we know is that something incredibly hot and dense called the singularity was violently dividing over and over again, creating space-time as it expanded. But eventually it began to cool, and as it did so, things started to form. First there were just tiny particles, and then after about a millionth of a second, those particles formed into the first atomic nuclei, mostly hydrogen and helium. After another few 100,000 years, the universe had cooled enough for those atoms to start forming the first molecules. As the universe continued expanding and cooling, gravity caused these molecules to clump together and collapse. Those clumps created the first stars, giant balls of burning plasma held together by their own gravity. These first stars were massive and short-lived. They burned through their fuel in a matter of millions of years rather than trillions, and they exploded in spectacular supernova, seeding the universe with heavier elements that were missing from the primordial soup. Over billions of years, the universe filled with stars and star systems, and some of those stars gathered enough mass to form planets around them. Some of these planets were in the habitable zone of their star, meaning that they could have liquid water on their surface, which scientists think is an important ingredient for life as we know it. But at this point, we still haven't seen any life yet. It hasn't happened anywhere until here, at least not that we know of. Meanwhile, on one relatively unremarkable rock in an unremarkable star system, life arises for the first time. There's no dramatic event, no great filter. It just kind of happens. Over the next few billion years, life on this planet, which we'll call Earth, diversifies and evolves. The first organisms were single-celled creatures that lived in the oceans. Then over time, larger multicellular organisms evolved. Eventually, life moved onto land and the first forests formed. Then one day, a new kind of organism appears, one that is the direct descendant of a common ancestor we share with all other life on Earth. It's a strange creature that looks like a mix between a lizard and an insect with 6 legs and a tail. Scientists think that creatures like this roamed the Earth for hundreds of millions of years before going extinct, leaving behind a single group of descendants. Those descendants evolved into many different kinds of vertebrates like fish, amphibians, reptiles, birds, and mammals. And somewhere in the middle of all this, primates split off from other mammals. They're a relatively minor branch on the tree of life, but over time, they diversify and spread across the globe. Eventually, one species of primate with big brains and opposable thumbs migrated out of Africa and into Europe. This is where our story starts. This was the world 2.5 million years ago, when our hominid ancestors first arrived in Europe. At this point, the climate was rapidly changing and becoming colder. The ice sheets were beginning to grow, and this caused many animal species to migrate southwards towards warmer climates. But hominids weren't equipped for long-distance migration. Their numbers dwindled and many groups went extinct. Only one survived, Homo sapiens. We do and know exactly what it was about our lineage that allowed us to survive while all the others died out. Maybe we were more adaptable, smarter, social, communicative, or maybe the others simply died out by random chance, and we just happened to be the lucky survivors. Either way, we survived the last ice age and emerged into a world that was slowly warming again. It was a world full of megafauna, woolly mammoths, saber-toothed cats, giant ground sloths, all sorts of large, charismatic creatures that we typically associate with the distant past. During the last interglacial period, the world was as warm as it is today, and humans lived alongside these creatures in small, scattered groups. We hunted the megafauna for food, and we likely used caves for shelter. At this point, we were still very much a part of the natural world, living alongside countless other animals and plants that had been around for thousands and millions of years. But the climate shifted again, the ice returned, and most of the megafauna went extinct. Now, only one species of human remained, Homo sapiens. For tens of thousands of years, we lived in small nomadic groups, following the herds for food and shelter. But gradually, things began to change. Around 14,000 years ago, humans began to domesticate dogs. The first step in a process that would eventually see us domesticate many other animals and even plants. Around 12,000 years ago, humans invented pottery, a technology that would completely revolutionize cooking and food storage. And around 9,000 years ago, humans invented agriculture. The shift from hunting and gathering to growing your own food was one of the most significant changes in human history. It allowed humans to stay in one place and build permanent settlements. Populations grew, and people began to specialize in tasks other than food production. Some became potters, some became weavers, some became metalworkers. Now, for the first time in history, humans were producing more than they needed. And this surplus could be used to support specialized labor. Some people didn't need to farm because other people farmed for them. This allowed some people to focus on making tools, others to focus on building houses, and others to focus on building boats, or whatever else was useful for the community. Suddenly, humans were able to produce far more goods than they had ever been able to before. This process of specialization and increasing productivity continued throughout history. As populations grew and cities developed, humans continued to invent new technologies and organize themselves into larger and larger societies. Some societies were organized into city-states, others into kingdoms, then empires. Humans spread across the globe, conquering every environment and exploiting every resource. We built huge monuments to ourselves. We waged enormous wars, and we colonized distant lands. For the first time in history, humans had more power over the natural world than any other organism. And meanwhile, on a cosmic scale, the universe was dramatically reshaping itself. Stars exploded, galaxies collided, and supernovas scattered elements across the cosmos. New solar systems formed and planets coalesced from swirling disks of dust. On one of these planets, life arose for the second time. Okay, so it turns out that life may have arisen multiple times on Earth and likely arose at least once elsewhere in the universe. But if we're being honest, the appearance of life isn't that impressive. There are probably trillions of planets out there with life on them. The truly remarkable thing is how life on Earth evolved from simple, single-celled organisms to complex multicellular ones. How it moved from water to land and ultimately diversified into millions of species. That took 3.5 billion years, and it's really quite impressive. But in the grand scheme of things, that's nothing. It's actually taken the universe 13.8 billion years to get where it is today. Sure, life has been around for a few billion of those years, but for most of the universe's existence, it wasn't here. Most of the action has been galaxies forming and flying by, stars exploding, light traveling for billions of years, and black holes gobbling up everything in sight. And meanwhile, on this one little blue dot, human civilization has grown and evolved. We've gone from nomadic hunter-gatherers to farmers to industrialists to the point where we can launch rockets into space and explore other worlds. And all of this has taken less than 0.0001% of the universe's lifespan. It seems almost unfair that we've been able to accomplish so much in such a short amount of time, especially when you consider that intelligent life may have arisen independently many times over the course of the universe, only to be wiped out by some cosmic catastrophe. We seem to have gotten lucky. We got dealt a winning hand, and we've played it well. Maybe there are other civilizations out there that have done the same. Maybe they're watching the stars and wondering about our place in the universe, just like we are. If you want to learn more about the universe and our place in it, I have a whole series of videos on the subject linked below. Thanks for watching.